Do you read me?
Be advised, you are coming in weak and unreadable.
Say again, Com Tower. This is Pacho. Do you read me?
Pacho, this is Com Tower. I read you Lima Charlie.
Com Tower, Com Tower. Request permission to launch and commence the field op. Over.
Stand by. Pacho, permission granted. I say again, permission granted.
Roger that. Launching podcast in 3, 2. You are now entering the field op with your host, Pacho Correa, Chief Warrant Officer 3, United States Marine Corps retired. Get some. Hurrah! Get some. All right, what's going on, everybody? Hey, baby Friday is upon us. Friday Night's Eve. Goddamn, it's almost the weekend. Hey, we got an amazing show for you today. Let me just scoot over a little bit. I got a lot of documents related to today's topic here today. So, hey, before we get started, hey, when was the last time that you actually knew your financial independence number? You want to find out, hey, when is it that you can realistically retire and stop working? Hit me up. Go to meetthemoneypro.com. You could go in there, schedule a 1 hour free strategy session, and we could talk about many different things that not only, what's your financial independence number, also what is it that you, what vehicles you can put your money in to really maximize your investments, as well as how to protect your family properly. Because let's face it, kind of related to today's topic, some of the resources that we have out there through the VA and protecting our family and just information. One is either dated or not the best. So why not allow somebody that's walking your boots and that basically kind of learn the hard way. I'll be able, that's why I'm so passionate about what I do. Hit me up. Let's get again, go there, schedule a free 1 hour strategy session. We can talk about things, and if something makes sense, great. If not, that's okay too. But at least you have some information. And in addition to that, apply for your VA veterans benefits. One thing that I've been doing, I find myself doing a lot lately, is helping vets putting a claim together and in addition to that, obviously, I can walk you different ways of how to in, get some better returns on that money that you're going to be receiving from the system because you worked for it. You've earned it. You've worked for it hard, and you should definitely make that grow, so that again, you don't find yourself later in life, you know, having to work at Walmart or anything like that, because that's the last thing that you want to do. So one, put in for your VA claims and benefits. If you haven't done so, I can more than gladly do that. I can help you do that and then show you different things of what is that you rate and everything else. I've already helped several veterans, not only uh, who are within my network, my friends and families, but some of you have reached out on here as well. It's not a gimmick. It's not a scam. I will help you out, and I can, it's not a guarantee that that will get you 100% the first time or anything of the sort, but some is better than nothing. So, and especially if I find myself, I've reapplied for different things and just kind of got it there, um, you know, in there. And just and by the way, just because it's PNT, permanent total in the VA, if you get that designation, it's not always a guarantee that it's going to be forever. So always keep that in mind. All right. So this show is also all about freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, all that good stuff that the Constitution brings us. So if you like what you hear, like, subscribe, and follow. Tell your friends all about it. Help me grow my footprint in social media a little bit more. I think on Facebook we're doing pretty good. I would like to grow my other channels, like my YouTube channel, as well as my TikTok. And you can follow me straight on social media. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. So yeah, just go on there, and if you have any questions, I respond to all my messages. So don't be shy. We can engage in a conversation. Even if we agree to disagree, that's okay too. I mean, we're still having a conversation, right? So because a lot of us here, most of us defend it. I know I have some I guess non-military related folks on that watch the show and listen to it. But at the end of the day, hey, we're all here, and we're all human beings. Why not bring back just kindness and good conversations, and whether we agree with them or not, right? So, and if you also want to be a podcaster yourself, you can hit Brian Colburn. I know I take in my introduction, I usually take a little long, but it just I'm very thankful for the folks and to you, fellow, to my listeners, for giving me the opportunity to listening to me for these the next couple of minutes. So, hey, give Brian Colburn and Sitchradio a hit him up. If you got any questions, you can follow him on social media. He's got some amazing stuff out there that he puts out every week, or actually every on a daily basis, as a matter of fact. So, I think that's all we have for today's pleasantries. I know I seem a little bit more reserved during the show. It's just that I'm not gonna lie, and it was why I put the segment together. Uh, it's just the legal system as a whole. Um, they say Lady Justice is blind, but is she really? To some degree, I mean, I disagree, especially when it comes to us veterans or service members. Uh, you know, the court system, rarely accounts for the invisible wounds. I mean, it's much easier to point something out on some one of our brothers and sisters that where they got injured, blown up, and everything else, right? But even things like symptoms like PTSD, having PTSD, TBIs, anxiety, depression, etc. Those are things that a lot of us you know deal with, and or we act a certain way that we question ourselves. I know that was my case. When I was having outbursts out in public and those type of things that it seems like we get penalized for having these symptoms, or you if you're going through some legal proceedings, maybe you missed a hearing, um or because we have these emotions that we just don't know what we're doing, and or misunderstood reactions. I mean, I understand myself a lot more now that prior to getting diagnosed. And I think in our environment, and you've heard me talk about this in the past, where in our own environment, it's kind of that was the case for me. It's just, oh yeah, you see somebody, a Marine or a soldier, flipping a desk over, chewing somebody out, knife handing them, and you're like, oh yeah, they're so that person's getting motivation, uh, being motivated, right? But hindsight 2020, uh, those type of behaviors are not normal. It wouldn't be in the private sector. I mean, you flip a desk over, you're yelling at somebody. I mean, you'll find yourself quicker than heck in front of your HR and ethics if the company has one of those too. So, and even our VA documentation often gets dismissed, um, unless you're working with an attorney, and you don't even want to even get me started on. I know hey, look, if you're a fellow veteran and you're an attorney, hey, I hope you're a good one. It's just the ones that I've dealt with, I've not, unless the onesies and twosies that gave me some advice not too long ago. So I shout out to them. But for the most part, it just, you know, they, they can't frame unless they've walked in your boots. They really can, you know, frame your case in a manner where they'll be able to help you. And judges often lack the training and military culture to be aware of trauma and everything. Everything. I mean, yeah, things have gotten a little bit more mainstream, but I think it still can do better. So, like I'll give you a good example. Uh, you know, as we're in, if we're in the courtroom, there's a lot of challenges out there because that we have to face because uh, you got a minor civil case, or maybe just some big, like, or maybe family and even criminal issues. There's a lot of things that, and studies have already shown that not just connected, but obviously trauma from a lot of us have faced multiple, double exposure to trauma, things that happened to us as kids, think, or even growing up, teenager, whatever the case, and he joined this other um, organization where, depending on, because everything ain't perfect, you go to a unit, a command, or whatever, and now there's trauma there. You go to combat, that's another form of trauma where, you know, so a lot of things out there are not as understanding. And if you're a person that did 20 plus years, hell, shit. I mean, you did, one term, whatever. I mean, that transition stress, um, and lack of education. Because even though as I mentioned to you guys when I did the show, I was in California. I mean, I went and I spoke to the director of transition assistance aboard Camp Pendleton. It's come a long way. I mean, and I got to give it to them. They're doing some really good things. Um, I think there's, I think there's a lot of room for improvement. A lot of room for improvement. But but at the end of the day, we gotta help our brothers and sisters. 4 years, 15, it doesn't matter. Get them able to navigate, and set them up for success. Navigating that the legal system that it's like you're expected to be able to navigate this stuff. Like if you're a JAG officer, and advocate general, for those of you who aren't don't habla military, right? So, and then when we're out there, trying to fiddle our or feel our way through all these things. There's not a whole lot of resources, and I mean, hiring an attorney, and yes, they've earned it. Yes, you went to school, you got the experience, and I get it. I get it 100% because I used to consult on other ways, and obviously, you get what you pay for. I get that. However, there should be some for for veterans, service members, some type of relief or just help, that to reduce having to pay 10, $15,000 to get assistance on a family court matter or just anything of the sort, um, out there. So, and speaking of family court, it's supposed to be fair. I mean, and that's what you go in there, uh, thinking. But for a lot of us vets, financially and emotionally, it's totally devastating. I mean, and let me just say this. Obviously, I'm not, and by no means should this show be taken out of context. And like, oh, okay, well, if you're a veteran, you should get a hall pass on just do whatever dumb shit, treat your spouse, your significant other like crap or whatever. No, I'm not saying that at all whatsoever. I'm just saying that if Lady Justice is blind and the system is supposed to be fair, it should be, if you're a criminal, you're a criminal. I get it. However, when it comes to family, okay, let's use family court for a second. Everything should be fair because two people that are going to get a divorce, I mean, 9 times out of 10, it took both of them for them to get to wherever they're at. I mean, are there those cases where it's heavy on one side and the other? Yeah, of course. I mean, but for the most part, in my opinion, it should be fair. You take in regards to, like, for example, spousal support guidelines, states like, yeah, primarily in California, they, more than often, they're going to disregard your service related income, and even if it's federally protected under 38 CFR at the federal level, your VA income, as well as if you happen to be on combat related special compensation, and I've already done a show on what that is. So basically, your retirement becomes, on tax. It becomes a form of disability, right? But in states like California, I mean, they're going to treat it like regular income, which is totally unfair. Especially that individual is solely relying on that income. I mean, period. You how can you just can't squeeze, uh, y- you know blood out of a turnip, as the saying goes, right? Uh, and don't forget to factor in, non-traditional military lifestyles or service-related injuries that obviously, a lot of that stuff can, is heavily stressful, right? So, those things, it just the law doesn't really take into all that stuff, and I'm kind of getting ahead, but so what's the result? Well, that service member or that veteran ends up paying large sums in military and spousal support, sometimes even beyond the actual means. I mean, I use myself for example. When I was going through my proceedings, uh, way back, some years back, um, the only saving grace that I had, it was because I was literally living in, at a friend's house, paying some rent, but my entire almost my entire paycheck, as well as a large portion of my disability, including my VA, was going to pay spousal support and temporary support and child support. It was a grip of money. I mean, I don't want to get into, but it was a lot. If I tell when I tell some people what I was paying, they just can't believe it until, some of them have even seen the paperwork, and it's like, oh wow, I can't believe. So, and I'm not, by no means, again, I'm not. This is not my own soapbox type of show. I'm just using me as an example. Um, so how do you explain, combat injuries to a judge who thinks VA disability is free money? You know, uh, and oftentimes when you reference uh, law and say, hey, hey, this is protected under blah blah blah, because I've seen videos. If you, I mean, you could find this stuff on YouTube. That veteran gets, I mean, they get held under contempt. You know, when he that person is just quoting that, statual law, right? So, and then and even custody decisions, they overlook deployments, mental health progress, or even or service schedules, right? So, and there's no, again, there's no assistance, no, hey, I understand. Again, you know, a lot of us find ourselves kind of wondering after we get out, because it's like, hey, do I have how can I navigate, or a lot of us find difficulties trying to hold a job. Hell, I mean, a lot of us find ourselves jumping from one job to the other for whatever reason, toxic environments, uh, you know, it just, you can't seem to assimilate or fully transition out of the service. I mean, it's just a lot of things that has a mental factor that goes into it, that it just you know that it can take a toll on its individual, and there's no safeguards to prevent abuse of the system or false claims. The other side, it may claim, all the different things, and it's like the more you even submit documentation to the courts completely negate or don't even look at the factual information that's at hand. Again, I'm talking from full experience, and they just completely just hear, and if, god forbid, if you're representing yourself, that the judge and the lawyers, like, they'll talk to each other and like you're not even there. So uh, unless you can, how do you fight against it, or what's the fix? Well, um, you know just stay with it. I'm suggesting a couple of things, because it is a double standard. What happens with the civilian justice? Well, very more than often, you get judged, more harshly than our civilian counterparts, under the "you should know better" blanket, right? In other words, that, hey, oh yeah, you were trained, you were this, you're that. Well, shit, I'm still a human being, and I, I don't know anything how to navigate certain things. Again, I'm not talking about if you're blatantly committed a crime, robbed a fucking bank. Like, by the way, uh, quick story here. One time we were brought back. This is on a weekend, and I think it was a weekend. I was at 372. Anyways, we were held information. We were at the we had this lot where we put all our logistics stuff there, our staging area. Anyways, and it was a Saturday. The police were there and all this stuff. I mean, a huge formation, and basically, come to find out, a senior staff NCO the day before, it was on a Friday, went to the Navy Federal. You can look up, you can look up all the details online, but uh, you know, this guy, this person went to Navy Federal, and basically held and went in there, gave him a note saying, "Hey, this is a robbery, blah blah." I mean, just like in a movie, just like that, and put the money in the bag and whatever. And obviously, the guy, when the guy drove away, it had that that blue shit on it, whatever. But it was a senior staff NCO. Come to find out, the individual had some huge gambling debts and all kinds of other stuff that you know I don't know what led the dude to you know go hold up a bank, but it does happen. And so in those instances, hey man, you reap what you sow, right? But again, we're placed under this blanket like you should have known better. You were trained to lead and all that shit. But but the irony of the whole thing is this, that the same discipline that helped you serve is now held against you. Instead of just saying, okay, hey, what are the facts, the rights and wrongs, and hey, the punishment should fit the crime, right? So uh, legal leniency is extended to civilians, but rarely shows up for vets unless in a veterans treatment court, which there are, in, and in California, there are some veteran court. I believe there's there are here in Florida and I think Texas. I'm not sure in all the other states. So if you know, throw them on the comments. And but those aren't available in every state, and for all issues, it's just for certain things. Again, hey, if that veteran committed a certain type of crime, hey, let's guide him through it. Whatever, have him, he or she serve um, whatever their sentence is. But that's it's like we shouldn't just completely lock them away and throw away the key without really getting them the help or assistance that that they need. I mean, they haven't for our civilian counterparts. I mean, geez, it's like, and it's funny. I'm because when I wrote this show, I mean, I have a quote here. They love you on Veterans Day, the rest of the year not so much. I was just watching uh, what's his name? Is it Rob Reiner? He used to be on SNL, and it's like, we just get one day, right? Veterans Day. If you serve, you get Veterans Day. If you die for our country, you get Memorial Day. But but that's it. It's like the recognition, or regardless, again, that individual, that even though yes, they if they messed up and they did something stupid or horrible, hey, by all means, whatever. But even then, I mean, they wrote that blank check to die for their country. So it just it can be pretty daunting. um, so what can be done about it? There should be more education out there on legal rights, especially during in Canada they call it TRS, transition something, I forget, I don't know, but TAP is what I remember, transition assistance program. But there should be a lot more family organization say, hey, don't go out there and get stupid and do this and do that, because you don't have your gunny, your sergeant, your whoever protect, having your back, like, hey, no, we'll just keep this under wraps. But if you mess up, it'll come back. And no, I mean, that shit doesn't exist on the private sector. And expand on veteran specific legal resources, like legal aid for vets. Uh, maybe through like local, like local bar association. I don't mean drinking bars, by the way. For Marines, I mean, bar is a trigger word for drinking. For like local bar associations to be able to help out veterans and guide them through whatever, or do some pro bono work, right? Uh, and even VSO, some of our VSOs holding legal clinics. And in addition to that, there needs to be a push for updates in spousal support laws. It needs to be fair, and on both sides. On both sides. I'm not, and again, I'm not, shying, again, because I mean, I've been part through, I've gone through the system. I'm not shying away from those things. It's just, but it needs to be fair because some people just play the system and everything, and coupled with a lawyer that sleazy and that's just gonna try to do work every trick up their sleeve to basically keep that person on the income. It's not the best, right? And so again, laws support, again, that changes to the spousal support and protect VA benefits and disability pay. I mean, fuck, if that individual almost died for their country and whatever else, I'm just saying, right? And normalize mental health evaluations for veterans related to family law and criminal court cases. I mean that that, hey, if this individual has these things, they, I mean, they got go get help or whatever the case, but it just shouldn't be thrown, the book completely thrown at them. You know what I'm saying? So uh yeah, I mean, hey, thanks. Thanks, thanks for the awesome comment, brother. And then we need to encourage representation by military informed attorneys. Okay, there's a lot of stuff out there that a lot of attorneys that are not familiar with the system. They're with Especially when it comes to dealing with veterans. They say they do, but all they are. I'm here to tell you because I've gone through the grinder, and I've been there. Them lawyers are not your friend. They neither yours, or if you're on the spouse side, they are not your friends. All they care about is you fighting or not coming to an agreement, or even prolonging, or adding more fuel. They're just there to get paid. I'm telling you because it's insane. I mean, I was borderline homeless. uh, Shout out to Ken and Kim on the show. um, yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. You know, but it needs the system needs to be revamped and empower vets to advocate for themselves and others. We didn't fight for freedom just to be shackled by the injustice of our system at home, right? So, you know, so what are my final, I guess, wrapping up this thing, and I would highly encourage you that get educated. If you're going through some proceedings, I mean, with the internet and everything else that on other resources uh, helping us out, get educated. Don't be afraid, and don't be afraid to question. Hey, why is this being asked for? And and if you're representing yourself, don't be afraid to object to certain things. Don't just give the baby. Don't just throw the baby with the bathwater and give them everything that they ask for. Object. Do your research. There's a lot of things that and let them know that you have rights too. I guess, as they say, it'll get ugly before it gets better. But the legal system wasn't built for the battlefield, but many of us are have to navigate it anyway, whether we want to or not, or maybe just some of us just can't, don't have the discretionary funds to hire a full-blown attorney. uh, Veterans don't want favor. We don't want favors. We just we want what's fair. Just like we exercise fairness when we were in combat or in deployment. We want that to be also be used uh, while we are, uh, you know, if we find ourselves in a legal proceeding, right? So, if you do me a favor, share this episode with folks. Support in, let's start a movement to support legal reform for veterans. Um, and if you're facing court, don't go at it alone. Hit me up. Let's have a chat. I'm not a lawyer, but I could point you in the right direction. There's organizations that that might be able to help out. hopefully again, but at least you have somebody that that's gone through it, is going through it as a whole. So, but before I punch out, shitty times don't last forever. I just we just gotta keep telling ourselves that, so that it starts going through it. I can vouch for that. However, uh, you know, it's not forever. You just gotta weather the storm and keep relying and leaning on your friends and family and your network, so that and if you want somebody to talk to and bitch to, cry to, hit me up. I'm a pretty good listener. All right. So I think this is a good place to end this. So with that being said, everybody, I'll see you next week. Ice the mask, dice the key. I'll see you later, everybody. Yacht, hoorah, get some. Bye bye.